Human defends alien gang leader's wife from the alien police. Next day, 200 ships show up at... The Starlight Wayfarer wasn't much to look at. Just another hole-in-the-wall tavern on the outer rim of Cygnus Station, where the artificial gravity sometimes hiccuped and the recycled air tasted like metal and regret. But it was mine. Every scuffed table, every dented glass, every square inch of it paid for with 12 years of busting my ass across 3-star systems. Last call in 20, I announced, wiping down the counter with a rag that had seen better days. Most of my regulars, a motley assortment of freighter pilots, station maintenance workers, and the occasional mercenary, were already settling their tabs. That's when she walked in. The door hissed open, and the ambient chatter died faster than a vacuum breach. She was tall, maybe 6'4", with skin the color of Earth's oceans, a deep cobalt blue that seemed to absorb the tavern's dim lighting. Her hair, pulled back in a tight braid, was pure white, contrasting sharply with her skin. But it was her eyes that caught me. Pale silver, almost luminescent, scanning the room with the wariness of prey that knows it's being hunted. Her black armored bodysuit hugged a figure that would make a blind monk take a second look, with metallic accents that caught the light as she moved. A fresh bandage adorned her right cheek, and her gloved hands trembled slightly as she approached the bar. "Something strong," she said quietly, her voice carrying a melodic accent I couldn't place. "Please." I nodded, reaching for a bottle of Arcturus whiskey. The real stuff, not the synthetic crap. As I poured, I noticed the insignia on her shoulder guard, a stylized nebula with a lightning bolt through it. The mark of the Nova Riders. Holy shit. The Nova Riders weren't just any gang, they were the gang, controlling shipping lanes across 3 sectors with a fleet of modified cruisers that could outrun anything the Galactic Patrol could throw at them. And based on that insignia's specific markings, she wasn't just any rider. Before I could slide her drink across the counter, the tavern door hissed open again. This time, 3 figures in the unmistakable blue-tinted armor of station security entered, their helmet visors scanning the room methodically. "Routine check," announced the lead officer, his voice modulated through his helmet speaker. "Everyone stay seated." The blue woman's shoulders tensed, and her hand instinctively moved toward what I suspected was a concealed weapon at her hip. Without thinking, I moved sideways, positioning myself between her and the officer's line of sight. "Evening, officers," I called out casually, continuing to wipe down the bar. "What brings Cygnus's finest to my humble establishment?" The lead officer approached, his visor depolarizing to reveal the scaled face of a draconid. "We're looking for someone, Reeves. Female Azurian, white hair, likely armed. Seen anyone matching that description?" I shrugged, maintaining eye contact with the officer while acutely aware of the Azurian woman behind me. "Can't say I have. Just the usual crowd tonight." I gestured around the tavern. "You know my place. I run clean. No trouble." The draconid's vertical pupils narrowed as he studied my face. "You sure about that?" "We have reports she was headed this way." "She hasn't been here, trust me, guys. You know me," I said, forcing a casual smile. I'd remember someone like that. Hard to miss an Azurian on this side of the station. For a moment, I thought he might push it. Instead, he reactivated his visor and nodded curtly. "If you see anything, call it in. This one's dangerous." "Always do," I lied smoothly. After a final scan of the room, the officers departed. The tavern remained silent until the door hissed shut behind them. "Everyone finish up," I announced. "We're closing early tonight." The patrons, sensing something was off, didn't argue. Within minutes, the tavern was empty, except for me and the Azurian woman, who was now watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "Why did you do that?" she asked, her silver eyes unblinking. I slid the untouched whiskey toward her. "Do what?" "Lie to them. You don't know me." I leaned against the counter, studying her. "Let's just say I'm not a fan of station security's methods. They tend to shoot first and file reports later, especially when it comes to off-worlders." She took the glass, downing the whiskey in one smooth motion. "You have no idea what you've just involved yourself in, human." "Probably not," I agreed, refilling her glass. "But my mother always said I had more balls than brains. I'm Jake Reeves, by the way, owner of this fine establishment." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Lidara, and I can't stay long." "Running from something or someone?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Both." She glanced toward the door. Those officers weren't regular security. Their enforcement division hired guns for the hegemony. The hegemony, the massive corporate conglomerate that effectively ruled this sector in all but name. If they were after her, this was bigger than some gang dispute. "Look," I said, lowering my voice, "I've got a storage room in the back with a hidden compartment, used to smuggle exotic liquors past customs. You can lay low there until morning when the station shifts change." Lidara studied me for a long moment, those silver eyes seeming to peer straight through to my soul. "Why would you help me?" It was a fair question, one I wasn't entirely sure I had an answer for. Maybe it was the fear I'd glimpsed in her eyes when the officers entered. Maybe it was the way she carried herself, like someone who'd been fighting for too long. Or maybe I was just a sucker for a beautiful woman in trouble. "Let's just say I've been on the wrong side of the hegemony before," I replied. "Besides, my night was getting boring anyway." She smiled then, a real smile that transformed her face and made my heart skip a beat. "Very well, Jake Reeves. I accept your offer." I led her to the back room, showing her the false wall panel that concealed a space just large enough for a person to hide comfortably. As she stepped inside, she turned back to me. "They will return, you know. And when they do, they won't be as polite." "I'll deal with that when it happens," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Get some rest. I'll wake you at shift change." As I closed the panel, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just made a decision that would change everything. I had no idea how right I was. The next morning, I woke to the sound of engines, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, their combined roar vibrating through the station's hull. I rushed to the small viewport in my quarters above the tavern and felt my jaw drop. Outside, filling the docking bays and hovering in formation around the station, was the largest gathering of ships I'd ever seen. Cruisers, fighters, and everything in between, all bearing the distinctive nebula and lightning bolt insignia of the Nova Riders. "What the hell have I gotten myself into?" I muttered, as the first rays of the station's artificial dawn illuminated nearly 200 ships that definitely hadn't been there when I went to sleep. The station's emergency sirens wailed as the docking bay doors opened to accommodate the largest of the Nova Rider vessels, a massive cruiser that dwarfed the station's regular traffic. I'd barely had time to throw on clothes and check on Lidara when my comm unit buzzed with an incoming station-wide announcement. "Attention all residents and visitors of Cygnus Station. This is Station Administrator Threll. We are currently hosting an unexpected delegation. All non-essential personnel are advised to remain in their quarters." This is not a drill. Lidara emerged from the back room, her silver eyes wide. "They found me." "Your friends?" I asked, gesturing toward the viewport. She moved beside me close enough that I could smell something like cinnamon and ozone on her skin. The proximity sent an unexpected jolt through me. "Not just friends," she said quietly. "That flagship belongs to Krell Voss." The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Everyone in this sector knew Krell Voss, the infamous leader of the Nova Riders. Stories about him ranged from heroic to horrifying, depending on who was telling them. And he is. I left the question hanging, though I already suspected the answer. "My husband," Lidara confirmed, her expression unreadable. "Well, shit." Before I could process this revelation, the tavern's security system chimed, indicating someone at the door. The external camera showed a group of heavily armed riders, a mix of Azurians like Lidara, reptilian Saurians, and even a hulking Sid towering over the others. "They don't look like they're here to place a drink order," I muttered. Lidara's hand touched my arm, sending another electric current through my body. "Let them in. They won't harm you." "Forgive me if I don't find that reassuring," I replied, but I unlocked the door anyway. The group entered with military precision, scanning the tavern before their leader, the Sid, stepped forward. His massive frame nearly filled the doorway, brown fur adorned with intricate metal ornaments that clinked softly as he moved. "Lady Voss," he rumbled, inclining his head respectfully toward Lidara. "The commander awaits." Lidara nodded, then turned to me. "This is Jake Reeves. He sheltered me from hegemony agents. He is to be treated as an honored friend of the Riders." The Sid's small eyes studied me with newfound interest. "A human who stands against the hegemony? Rare indeed." He extended a massive paw. "Grawl, First Lieutenant to Commander Voss." I shook his hand, trying not to wince at his grip. "Nice to meet you. though I'd appreciate knowing why my tavern is suddenly the center of attention for the sector's most notorious gang. Not gang, Grawl corrected, sounding almost offended. Brotherhood. Brotherhood, gang, whatever you call yourselves. There are 200 ships outside my window, and I'd like to know why. Lidara exchanged glances with Grawl before answering. The hegemony has placed a bounty on me. Those weren't ordinary security officers last night. They were assassins. And my husband has brought the entire fleet to extract me, she added, a complex emotion crossing her face. Before I could respond, the tavern door opened again. This time, the atmosphere in the room changed instantly, the riders straightening to attention as a tall, powerfully built Azurian male entered. Krell Voss looked exactly like the stories described him, imposing, dangerous, and undeniably charismatic. His blue skin was darker than Lidara's, almost indigo, marked with ritual scarification that traced patterns across his exposed arms. His white hair was cropped short on the sides but longer on top, pulled back in a warrior's knot. A jagged scar ran from his left temple to his jaw, giving his otherwise handsome face a fearsome quality. His silver eyes, identical to Lidara's, found her first, relief evident in his expression before his gaze shifted to me. I felt myself being assessed, measured, and categorized in seconds. So, he said, his voice surprisingly soft yet carrying an unmistakable authority, you're the human who protected my wife. I straightened my spine, meeting his gaze directly. I did what anyone would do. A smile touched his scarred face. No, human. You did what few would dare. He approached, and I resisted the urge to step back. The hegemony's enforcers have a reputation even we respect. Yet you lied to their faces to shelter a stranger. Her being a stranger didn't seem relevant at the time, I replied. Krell studied me for another moment before laughing, a genuine booming sound that seemed to fill the tavern. I like this one, Lidara. He has what your people call spine. Lidara moved to her husband's side, and I noticed how she hesitated slightly before touching his arm, a gesture that seemed both intimate and somehow performative. Jake offered his help without question, Krell. He deserves our protection. Krell nodded solemnly. The Nova Riders repay their debts, Jake Reeves. You have earned our gratitude and our shield. He extended his arm in what I recognized as a warrior's greeting. Any who move against you, move against us. I clasped his forearm, feeling the corded muscle beneath his skin. Appreciate the sentiment, but I'm just a tavern owner. I'd prefer to stay off everyone's radar, including yours. Too late for that, I'm afraid, Krell replied, his expression darkening. The hegemony doesn't forgive those who interfere with their operations. They'll be back, with more firepower. As if summoned by his words, the station's alarms blared again. Grawl pressed a finger to his earpiece, then growled something in a language I didn't understand. Hegemony enforcement cruiser just dropped out of hyperspace, he reported. They're demanding the station surrender Lady Voss. Krell's expression hardened. Time to leave. He turned to me. Gather what you value, human. You're coming with us. Wait, what? I can't just... You can and you will, he interrupted. Unless you fancy explaining to hegemony interrogators why you harbored a wanted fugitive. He had a point, still leaving everything I'd built over the past 12 years. My eyes met Lidara's, and something passed between us. A current of understanding, of connection that transcended our brief acquaintance. There was gratitude in her gaze, but something else too. Something that made my heart race in a way that had nothing to do with the danger we were in. Fine, I conceded. Give me 5 minutes. As I rushed to gather my few valuables, photos, my father's old service pistol, and a small stash of untraceable credits, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life had just veered into uncharted territory. And somehow the most unsettling part wasn't the Nova Riders or the hegemony's enforcers. It was the way my pulse quickened when Lidara looked at me, and the complicated guilt that followed. Everybody move! Krell's voice boomed through the tavern as the station's alarms intensified. We have 3 minutes before they lock down all docking bays. I'd barely secured my bag when the first impact rocked the station. The lights flickered and emergency protocols kicked in, bathing everything in pulsing red. What the hell was that? I demanded, steadying myself against the bar. Grawl checked his tactical display. Hegemony bastards fired on the east docking ring. They're trying to block our escape route. They're firing on a civilian station? I couldn't hide my shock. There are thousands of innocent people here. The hegemony doesn't recognize innocence, Ladara said grimly. Only assets and obstacles. Another blast shook the station harder. This time I heard the unmistakable sound of hull breach alarms from the adjacent sector. We need to move now, Krell ordered, drawing a wicked-looking energy pistol. Grawl, take point. Ladara, stay with Jake. As we rushed toward the docking bay, the station's emergency bulkheads began slamming shut in sequence. Ahead of us, a group of panicked civilians crowded the corridor, blocking our path. We'll never make it through that, Grawl growled. I spotted a maintenance access panel to our right. This way, I said, already moving. Station maintenance uses these tunnels to bypass crowded sections during emergencies. Krell gave me an appraising look. Lead on, human. I pried open the panel and guided the group into the narrow maintenance tunnel. The space was tight, especially for Grawl, but navigable. Years of trading drinks for information from station workers had given me intimate knowledge of Cygnus's layout. 2 levels down and 3 sections east, I instructed. That'll put us at the auxiliary docking bay where your ships are waiting. As we moved through the dimly lit passages, I felt Ladara's presence close behind me, her breath occasionally warming the back of my neck. Each time it sent an inappropriate thrill through my body. You know this station well, she observed quietly. Bartenders hear things, I replied, focusing on the path ahead rather than the distracting proximity of her body, especially when they pour generously. We emerged into a service corridor just as another explosion rocked the station, this one much closer. The impact threw me sideways into Ladara, our bodies colliding. Her arms instinctively wrapped around me to steady us both, and for a brief, electric moment, we were pressed together, her silver eyes inches from mine. Sorry, I muttered, pulling away reluctantly. Don't be, she replied, her voice lower than before. Krell, several paces ahead, hadn't noticed our moment. He was focused on the tactical display on his wrist. They've breached the main concourse. We have less than 2 minutes. We sprinted the remaining distance to the auxiliary docking bay, where a sleek Nova Rider shuttle waited, engines already humming. As we approached, the bay's external viewports provided a clear view of my tavern and the hegemony cruiser targeting it. No, I breathed, just as a brilliant beam of energy lanced from the cruiser, striking the section of the station housing the Starlight Wayfarer. The explosion was immediate and devastating, flames erupting as the atmosphere vented into space. 12 years of my life, gone in seconds. I stood frozen, watching everything I'd built disappear in fire and vacuum. A hand gripped my shoulder, Ladara's, pulling me toward the shuttle. There's nothing you can do, she said, her voice gentle but urgent. We need to go. Numbly, I followed her aboard the shuttle. Within moments, we were accelerating away from the station, joining the swarm of Nova Rider vessels already engaging the hegemony cruiser. Through the viewport, I watched smaller rider ships executing maneuvers that defied conventional tactics, working in perfect coordination to overwhelm the larger hegemony vessels' targeting systems. It was like watching a school of predatory fish taking down a much larger opponent, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. They're not just raiders, I realized aloud. This is military precision. Many of us were military, Krell confirmed from the command seat, before the hegemony decided we were expendable. The shuttle docked with Krell's flagship, an impressive vessel named the Stormbreaker, just as the Nova Rider fleet completed their attack pattern. The hegemony cruiser, now disabled but not destroyed, drifted helplessly as the riders prepared to jump to hyperspace. Welcome to your new home, Jake Reeves, Krell announced as we disembarked into the Stormbreaker's main hangar bay, at least until we can find you a suitable replacement for what the hegemony took from you. I surveyed the bustling hangar, crews performing maintenance on fighter craft, cargo being efficiently moved, all with a discipline I hadn't expected from what I'd always heard described as space pirates. This isn't what I imagined, I admitted. Krell laughed. Few outsiders see the true face of the Nova Riders. We prefer it that way. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. Ladara will show you to guest quarters. Rest. We'll speak more once we're safely away. As Krell departed to the bridge, Ladara gestured for me to follow her. We walked in silence through the ship's corridors, crew members nodding respectfully as we passed. Your husband runs a tight ship, I observed. Something flickered across Ladara's face, an emotion I couldn't quite identify. Krell understands the value of order. It's why the riders follow him. We reached a door that slid open to reveal surprisingly comfortable quarters. "These are yours," she said. "The fresher unit is through there. You'll find clean clothing in the storage unit." I set down my bag, all that remained of my former life. "Thank you for everything." Lidara hesitated in the doorway. "I should be thanking you. Few would have risked what you did for a stranger." "I'd do it again," I said, surprised to realize I meant it. Her silver eyes held mine, and the air between us seemed to charge with unspoken possibility. "Would you?" she asked softly. Before I could respond, her comm unit chimed. The spell broken, she straightened. "That's Krell. I should go." As the door closed behind her, I sank onto the bed, my mind reeling from everything that had happened. In less than a day, I'd lost my business, my home, and found myself aboard the flagship of the sector's most notorious outlaw fleet. And worst of all, I couldn't stop thinking about the wife of the man who just saved my life. Sleep eluded me that first night aboard the Stormbreaker. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my tavern erupting in flames, or Lidara's silver gaze holding mine. Around 0300 ship time, I gave up and wandered to the observation deck I'd spotted during our arrival. The vast emptiness of hyperspace swirled beyond the reinforced viewport, not the star lines most ships displayed, but something wilder, more primal. The riders' hyperdrives were clearly modified beyond standard specs. "Can't sleep either." I turned to find Krell approaching, carrying 2 glasses of amber liquid. He offered one to me. "Thought you might appreciate this. Arcturus whiskey, salvaged from a hegemony supply ship." He smiled wryly. "Their officers have excellent taste." I accepted the glass, raising it slightly. "To unexpected journeys?" "Indeed." Krell leaned against the viewport, studying me. "You know, you surprised me today." "How so?" "Your knowledge of the station's layout, your calm under fire, your tactical thinking." He took a sip. "Not typical bartender skills." I stared into my glass. "I wasn't always a bartender." "I thought not." Krell's scarred face remained impassive. "Terran Marine Corps? Or perhaps Alliance Special Forces?" My head snapped up. "How did you—" "Your stance. The way you assess exits when entering a room. The calluses on your hands." He shrugged. "I've fought alongside humans before." No point denying it. "Alliance Tactical Operations, 8 years, left as a captain. And became a bartender?" Krell raised an eyebrow. "Quite a career change." "Wanted something simpler." I drained my glass. "So much for that plan." Krell laughed. That same genuine laugh I'd heard in the tavern. "The universe rarely cooperates with our plans." His expression grew serious. "The hegemony has placed a bounty on you." "Me? I'm nobody." "Not anymore." He activated a holographic display from his wrist device. My face appeared alongside text in multiple languages. "Jake Reeves, human terrorist, conspired with known insurgents to attack a civilian station. 10 million credits, dead or alive." My stomach dropped. "That's insane. They attacked the station." "Truth is irrelevant to the hegemony. They control the narrative." Krell deactivated the display. "You're a marked man now, Jake. Every bounty hunter and hegemony sympathizer in the sector will be looking for you." I slumped against the viewport. "Perfect." "It changes things," Krell continued. "I had planned to drop you at a neutral port with enough credits to start over. That's no longer an option. So I'm stuck here. For now." Krell refilled our glasses from a flask. "Though perhaps it's fortunate. We could use someone with your background." "I'm not a mercenary." "Neither are we." Krell's voice hardened. "The Nova Riders fight for freedom from hegemony control. We protect those who can't protect themselves." "Noble pirates?" I couldn't keep the skepticism from my voice. "We're whatever we need to be to survive." Krell studied me. "You managed our escape route under pressure. I need someone who can think that way. Plan our operations, identify vulnerabilities." "You want me to be your strategist?" "I want you to stay alive," Krell corrected. "Working with us accomplishes that while putting your skills to use." He paused. "Lidara will be your liaison and protection. The crew respects her, and she knows our operations." My pulse quickened at Lidara's name. "I don't need a babysitter." You need someone who can keep you from getting killed while you learn our ways." Krell's tone left no room for argument. "And given the bounty on your head, you're a high-value target. Lidara is one of our best fighters." Before I could respond, the ship's comm system activated. "Commander Voss to the bridge. Priority transmission incoming." Krell downed his drink. "Duty calls. Consider my offer, Jake. We'll speak again tomorrow." After he left, I remained on the observation deck, mind racing. Becoming the rider's strategist meant committing to their cause, whatever it truly was. Yet what choice did I have? With that bounty, I couldn't show my face in civilized space. I returned to my quarters to find Lidara waiting outside my door. "Krell told me about the bounty," she said without preamble. "I'm sorry. Not your fault." I keyed open the door. "Want to come in?" She hesitated, then nodded, following me inside. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. "Krell says you'll be my handler?" I tried to keep my tone light. "Protector," she corrected, moving to the viewport, "and guide. The riders aren't easy for outsiders to understand." "Like the fact that you're not just criminals?" Lidara turned, a flash of anger in her silver eyes. "We're freedom fighters. The hegemony stripped our worlds of resources, conscripted our people, then discarded us when we were no longer useful." "I didn't mean—" "You did." Her expression softened. "But you couldn't know. The hegemony controls the information that reaches places like Cygnus Station." I moved closer, drawn to her intensity. "Then help me understand." Something shifted in her gaze, vulnerability replacing anger. "Krell and our marriage united two factions of the riders. The northern clans followed him. The southern reaches followed my family. Together, we became strong enough to challenge the hegemony." "A political alliance," I said, pieces falling into place. "Yes," she looked away. "We respect each other, care for each other even. But it's not love," I finished quietly. Her eyes met mine, and the air between us crackled with unspoken tension. "Azurians believe in soul bonds, connections that transcend arrangement or convenience." Her voice dropped lower. "I've never felt that with Krell. I was acutely aware of our proximity, of the subtle scent of her skin. And is that what you want? A soul bond?" Lidara stepped closer, close enough that I could see flecks of darker blue in her silver irises. "I never thought much about it, until recently." My heart hammered against my ribs. Every instinct urged me to close the distance between us. But loyalty to Krell, the man who'd saved me, who'd offered me a place, held me back. "Lidara, The ship's alarm cut through the moment like a knife. Red emergency lights bathed the room as the vessel lurched violently, throwing us both off balance. I caught Lidara instinctively, our bodies pressing together as the ship shuddered again. "Attention all crew!" Graal's voice boomed over the comm. "Hegemony Hunter-Killer Squadron detected. Battle stations. This is not a drill." Lidara pulled away, her expression shifting to combat readiness. "Stay here," she ordered, drawing a sleek pistol from her hip holster. "I'll come back for you when it's safe." As she rushed out, I stood alone in the pulsing red light, my body still humming from her touch, and my mind racing with possibilities I had no right to consider. I lasted about 30 seconds in my quarters before military instinct kicked in. Staying put during an attack wasn't in my nature. I grabbed the service pistol from my bag, an antique by Nova Rider standards but reliable, and headed for the door. The corridor outside was chaos, crew members rushing to battle stations, emergency bulkheads sealing off sections. Another impact rocked the ship, sending me stumbling against the wall. "Jake!" Graal's voice boomed from down the corridor. The massive Earthsuit was coordinating a damage control team. "You should be in your quarters." "I can help," I insisted, jogging toward him. "What's our situation?" Graal growled something in his native tongue that sounded distinctly uncomplimentary. 3 hegemony hunter-killers, fast attack vessels. They've disabled our port thrusters and weapons array. The ship shuddered again. Overhead, the damage control display showed a critical section flashing red. "Engineering deck is taking heavy fire," Graal reported. "If they breach the reactor containment..." "We're dead," I finished. "Where's Lidara?" "Coordinating defense on the engineering level with a skeleton crew. Most of our fighters were deployed when the attack began." My blood ran cold. Engineering was the most vulnerable section during an attack like this. I need to get down there. Grawl looked like he might argue, then simply handed me a comm unit. Deck 7, Section C. Don't get yourself killed, human. Ladara would never let me hear the end of it. I sprinted through the corridors, muscle memory from years of combat training taking over. The Stormbreaker's layout was intuitive enough for someone with military experience. Critical systems protected at the core, redundant systems distributed to minimize catastrophic failure. When I reached engineering, I found a barricade of cargo containers and equipment blocking the main entrance. Behind it, a handful of riders were exchanging fire with hegemony boarding parties. Sleek insectoid Vespid soldiers in matte black armor. Ladara was at the center of the defense, calling out orders while picking off attackers with precise shots from her energy pistol. Her white hair had come loose from its braid, flowing around her like a battle standard. I ducked behind the barricade beside her. Thought you might need an extra gun. Her head whipped around, surprise giving way to something like relief. Jake, I told you to stay put. Not really my style, I replied, squeezing off a shot that caught a Vespid in the joint of its armor. What's the situation? They're trying to reach the main reactor control room, she explained between shots. If they override the safeties, they could trigger a core breach, I finished, or worse, capture the ship intact. Another wave of Vespid soldiers poured through the breach, their chittering battle language echoing off the metal walls. I scanned the battlefield, years of tactical training kicking in. They're using a standard hegemony boarding pattern, 3-point advance with suppressing fire. Ladara glanced at me. You know their tactics. Fought against them in the Procyon conflict. I pointed to the overhead conduits. Those coolant pipes, are they active? She nodded. Supercooled nitrogen. Why? I grinned. Because Vespid exoskeletons become brittle at extreme low temperatures. I aimed at the junction above the advancing hegemony forces. When I give the signal, have everyone fall back to that secondary bulkhead. Understanding dawned in her eyes. Clever human, she murmured, then relayed the orders to her team. On my mark, the riders executed a coordinated retreat, drawing the Vespid forward. When they were perfectly positioned beneath the coolant pipes, I fired 3 rapid shots at the junction. The pipes burst, releasing a cloud of supercooled gas that engulfed the hegemony forces. The effect was immediate. Their exoskeletons cracked and froze, their movements becoming jerky and uncoordinated. Ladara and her team cut them down with ease. Engineering secure, she reported into her comm. The human strategy worked. The human has a name, I reminded her with a smile. Her silver eyes met mine, adrenaline and something else making them shine. Indeed he does. Before she could say more, Grawl's voice crackled over the comm. We've identified how they found us. Someone transmitted our hyperspace coordinates from within the ship. Ladara's expression hardened. A traitor. Worse, Grawl continued, the transmission originated from the command deck. Someone with high-level access. I watched Ladara process this information, her tactical mind working through implications. Secure all sensitive areas, she ordered, and lock down communication systems. No one transmits anything without direct authorization from Krell or myself. As her team moved to secure the area, Ladara pulled me into a maintenance alcove, away from prying eyes and ears. You saved us, she said quietly. That was impressive. Just applying old training, I demurred. Anyone with military experience would have seen it. But they didn't. You did. Her hand rested on my arm, the touch sending electricity through my body. You think differently than we do. It's valuable. The adrenaline of battle still coursed through my veins, heightening every sensation. The warmth of her hand, the faint scent of ozone, and something like cinnamon. The way her eyes seemed to glow in the dim emergency lighting. Ladara, I began, uncertain what I even wanted to say. She stepped closer, her body nearly touching mine. Azurians have a saying, battle bonds souls faster than peace ever could. Is that why I can't stop thinking about you? The words escaped before I could censor them. Instead of pulling away, she moved closer still. Perhaps it's why I can't stop thinking about you either. The ship had stopped shaking. Distant, all-clear signals echoed through the corridors. But in our hidden alcove, a different kind of tension built. one that had nothing to do with battle and everything to do with the diminishing space between us. "This is dangerous," I whispered, even as my hand found the small of her back. "Everything worthwhile is," she replied, her fingers tracing the line of my jaw. "Jake Reeves, defender of strangers, slayer of Vespids. What else are you capable of?" Her lips found mine then, and the universe contracted to just this moment, just this woman. Her skin was warmer than a human's, her lips softer than they appeared. The kiss deepened, her body pressing against mine with an urgency that matched the pounding of my heart. When we finally broke apart, breathless, reality came crashing back. She was married to Krell, my benefactor, the man who'd saved me from certain death. "We can't," I said, though every fiber of my being disagreed. Lidara's eyes held mine, unrepentant. "Among Azurians, political unions are separate from soul bonds. Krell knows this. He has companions of his own." "That's not how it works for humans," I explained, though my resolve was weakening by the second. "Then perhaps," she whispered against my lips, "you should stop thinking like a human and start thinking like a Nova Rider." Her words ignited something primal within me, something that cared nothing for human conventions or guilt. As her mouth claimed mine again, I surrendered to the heat between us. Consequences be damned. The hours following our encounter in the maintenance alcove passed in a blur of repair operations and security sweeps. Lidar and I maintained professional distance in public, but the charged glances we exchanged told a different story. By ship's evening, the Stormbreaker had limped to a hidden repair facility in an asteroid belt, a massive, hollowed-out rock that housed Nova Rider support crews and equipment. I was reviewing damage reports in my quarters when my door chimed. Expecting Lidara, I opened it to find Grawl instead, his massive frame filling the doorway. "The commander requests your presence," he rumbled. "Medical bay." My stomach tightened. "Medical bay? Is he injured?" Grawl's small eyes revealed nothing. "It is not my place to say." The walk to medical felt interminable. Had Krell discovered what happened between Lidara and me? Was this a summons to some alien form of retribution? I'd seen enough cultures across the galaxy to know that understanding of relationships could mean many things, not all of them pleasant for the outsider involved. The medical bay was eerily quiet when I arrived, most of the wounded having been treated and released. At the far end, a private room was guarded by 2 riders, who nodded at Grawl and allowed us to pass. Inside, Krell lay on a medical bed, various monitors displaying his vital signs. His normally vibrant indigo skin had paled to a dull slate blue. Lidara sat beside him, her face a mask of controlled emotion. When she saw me, something flickered in her eyes. Warning? Apology? "Jake Reeves." Krell's voice was weaker than I remembered, but his eyes remained sharp. "Come closer." I approached the bed, nodding respectfully. "Commander." "Leave us," Krell instructed the others. Grawl departed immediately, but Lidara hesitated. "Krell, you should rest." "I'll rest soon enough," he replied with a grim smile. "Give us a moment, Lidara." After she left, Krell gestured to a chair beside his bed. "Sit. We have matters to discuss." I sat, bracing for whatever was coming. "You're injured." "Dying, actually." He stated it matter-of-factly. "Vespid toxin, slow-acting, but quite thorough. The medics give me perhaps 2 standard days." The news hit me like a physical blow. There must be an antidote. There is. Somewhere in a hegemony medical facility. His laugh turned into a cough. Not exactly accessible to us at the moment. "I'm sorry," I said, meaning it despite the complicated guilt I felt. Krell studied me for a long moment. "You're wondering why I've called you here. Whether I know about you and Lidara." My blood ran cold. "Krell, He raised a hand to stop me. "Spare me the human apologies. Yes, I know. I've known since I saw you together in the observation lounge. The way she looked at you." He shook his head. "I've never seen her look at me that way." "Your marriage was political," he finished. "Necessary to unite our people. We respect each other, care for each other even. But there was never a soul bond." I shifted uncomfortably. "I don't understand why you're telling me this." "Because I'm dying, and the Nova Riders will need a new leader." His silver eyes held mine. "Someone who can unite them, who has proven their worth in battle, who thinks differently enough to outmaneuver the hegemony. The implication stunned me. You can't be serious. I'm an outsider, a human. Precisely why you're perfect. Krell's voice strengthened with conviction. The riders respect strength, intelligence, and loyalty. You've demonstrated all three, and with Ladara at your side, her lineage combined with your tactical mind, the riders would follow you. This is insane, I protested. I was a bartender a few days ago. Before that, you were a military commander, Krell countered. I've seen your personnel file. Alliance Tactical Operations doesn't promote just anyone to captain. I stared at him. You accessed my military records? Of course. I make it a point to know who's aboard my ship. He smiled weakly. Your record is impressive. Multiple commendations for unconventional tactical thinking. Exactly what the riders need. Why me? Why not Grawl or another senior rider? Because the factions would tear each other apart. An outsider, especially one bonded to Ladara, bridges those divisions. He reached out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. I'm not asking you to decide now, but promise me you'll consider it. The door slid open before I could respond. Ladara entered, followed by a medical officer who insisted Krell needed rest. As I stood to leave, Krell called after me. Jake, one more thing. His eyes held a mixture of resignation and hope. Make her happy. She deserves that much. In the corridor outside, Ladara waited for me. Without a word, she led me to a small observation platform overlooking the asteroid base. Repair crews swarmed over the Stormbreaker's hull, welding damaged sections and replacing destroyed weapons arrays. He told you, she said finally, not a question. About his condition? Yes. I leaned against the railing. And about his suggestion for succession. Ladara's eyes searched mine. What did you tell him? Nothing yet. It's a lot to process. I ran a hand through my hair. A few days ago, I was pouring drinks and worrying about inventory. Now I'm being asked to lead a rebellion against the most powerful force in the sector. While involved with the previous leader's wife, she added softly. I turned to face her fully. Is that what we are? Involved? Her blue fingers traced the line of my jaw, sending shivers down my spine. What happened between us wasn't casual for me, Jake. Azurians don't give themselves lightly. It wasn't casual for me either, I admitted. But this situation, Krell dying, his request, it complicates things. Does it? Her silver eyes held mine. Or does it simplify them? No more hiding, no more guilt. I took her hand, marveling at how right it felt in mine despite our differences. If I accept his offer, the crew will think I orchestrated this, seduced you to gain power. Some might, she acknowledged, until they see you lead. See your heart in action, as I have. Her free hand rested over my heart. This is what makes you different, Jake. Not your tactical mind or your courage in battle, impressive as they are. It's this. The tenderness in her touch undid me. I pulled her close, our foreheads touching. I don't know if I can be what they need. I do, she whispered. I've seen how humans fight for what they believe in, with a passion our people often lack. The riders need that fire. Our lips met then, the kiss deeper and more urgent than before. There was no hesitation now, no guilt to temper the heat between us. When we finally broke apart, breathless, I knew my decision was already made. If I do this, I said, we do it together. Equal partners. Her smile was radiant. The human way, I confirmed, pulling her close again. That night, in the privacy of her quarters, we explored each other with wonder and reverence. Our bodies, though different in color and temperature, fit together as if designed for one another. In the aftermath, as she lay curled against me, her skin glowing faintly in the darkness, I marveled at how far I'd come from my simple tavern on Cygnus Station. What are you thinking? She murmured, tracing patterns on my chest. That the universe has a strange sense of humor? I replied, kissing her forehead, and that I wouldn't change a thing. As we drifted towards sleep, the comm unit chimed with an urgent alert. Ladara answered, her body tensing as she listened. We'll be right there, she said, already reaching for her clothes. What is it? I asked, sensing trouble. Her silver eyes met mine, suddenly all business. The traitor has been identified. And they've just stolen a shuttle. Malar, Grawl growled, slamming his massive fist against the situation table. The traitor is Malar. The command center buzzed with activity as I studied the tactical display. Malar, Krell's chief of security and one of his most trusted lieutenants. The betrayal cut deep. Tracking shows his shuttle headed for the hegemony outpost in the Vega sector, reported a technician. He's transmitting data packets on an encrypted frequency. He's selling us out, Ladera said, her voice tight with controlled fury. Everything. Our safe houses, supply caches, informant network. I studied the star chart, mind racing. How long until he reaches hegemony space? 4 hours at his current velocity. And our fastest interceptor? Could catch him in 3, but… Grawl hesitated. The Stormbreaker's still undergoing repairs. Our only combat-ready vessels are light fighters with limited range. The assembled rider officers looked to Ladara, then, surprisingly, to me. I felt the weight of their expectation, their uncertainty. This was the moment that would define everything. We need to stop him before he delivers that data, I said, stepping forward. But a direct pursuit is exactly what he'll expect. I manipulated the star chart, highlighting a dense asteroid field between Malar's position and his destination. The Carillion Belt, treacherous navigation, but it cuts the distance to the hegemony outpost by half. Grawl shook his massive head. No ship larger than a scout vessel could navigate that safely. Then we don't use a large ship, I countered. We use the Phantom. A murmur ran through the command center. The Phantom was the rider's most advanced stealth vessel, small, agile, and nearly undetectable to standard sensors. It's a 2-person craft, Ladara noted, pilot and weapons officer. You and me, I said, meeting her eyes. We take the Phantom through the belt, intercept Malar before he reaches hegemony space. Grawl studied me with newfound respect. It's risky. The belt has claimed experienced pilots. Good thing I'm not experienced with asteroid fields, I replied with a grim smile. I don't know enough to be properly terrified. That earned a few chuckles from the officers, breaking the tension slightly. What about Krell? Someone asked. He should be consulted. Lidara's expression tightened. Krell's condition has worsened. The medics have induced stasis to slow the toxin's spread. She straightened her shoulders. Until he recovers, command falls to me, and I say we proceed with Jake's plan. No one challenged her authority, though I caught a few skeptical glances directed my way. I couldn't blame them. I was still an outsider, a human among a crew of aliens who'd fought together for years. 20 minutes later, Ladara and I were aboard the Phantom, running pre-flight checks. The vessel was a marvel of engineering, sleek, responsive, and packed with technology that would make Alliance intelligence drool. You sure about this? Ladara asked quietly as we prepared for launch. The belt is as dangerous as they say. No, I admitted, but I'm sure about stopping Malar. She reached across the cockpit to squeeze my hand. Then let's hunt a traitor. The Phantom slipped from the asteroid base like a shadow, its engines barely a whisper against the void. As we accelerated toward the Carillion Belt, I found myself marveling at how quickly life could change. A week ago, I'd been pouring drinks for spacers with tall tales. Now I was piloting an advanced stealth ship alongside a blue-skinned warrior woman who'd somehow captured my heart. What? Ladara asked, noticing my expression. Just thinking about how I ended up here, I replied, adjusting our course. All because I decided to help a stranger in my bar. Her silver eyes softened. The universe has strange currents, Jake Reeves. They carried you to us for a reason. The Carillion Belt loomed ahead, a chaotic swarm of rocks ranging from car size to small moons, all spinning in unpredictable patterns. I engaged the Phantom's enhanced sensors and took a deep breath. Here we go. Piloting through the belt was like dancing with 1,000 partners simultaneously, each trying to lead in a different direction. The Phantom's controls became an extension of my body as I weaved between asteroids, relying more on instinct than training. Beside me, Ladara monitored our pursuit trajectory, occasionally firing micro-thrusters to nudge us clear of debris. We moved in perfect synchronization, anticipating each other's actions without words. Malar's shuttle detected, she reported after nearly an hour of tense navigation. He's cleared the belt on the far side, making straight for the hegemony outpost. Intercept course. Calculating. We can cut him off at these coordinates. She transferred the data to my display. But we'll have to push the engines beyond safety parameters. I grinned. Safety's overrated. The Phantom surged forward, threading a needle between two massive asteroids spinning toward each other. Lidara's sharp intake of breath was the only indication of how close we'd come to disaster. "You fly like a madman," she observed, a note of admiration in her voice. "Human instinct," I replied. "Sometimes you have to stop calculating and just feel the ship." We burst from the asteroid field minutes later, the Phantom's stealth systems keeping us invisible to conventional sensors. Ahead, Malar's shuttle cruised on a direct course for hegemony space, unaware of our approach. "Weapons range in 30 seconds, Lidara reported. Ion disruptors charged." "We need him alive," I reminded her. "Target engines and communications only." The distance closed rapidly. At my mark, Lidara fired a precision burst that disabled the shuttle's main propulsion. Before Malar could react, we fired again, knocking out his communications array. "He's deploying countermeasures," Lidara warned as the shuttle released a cloud of sensor-jamming particles. "Too late," I replied, bringing the Phantom alongside the crippled vessel. "He's not going anywhere." What followed was textbook boarding action. Lidara and I in lightweight combat suits, breaching the shuttle's airlock and confronting a surprised Malar in the cockpit. The Azurian security chief reached for his weapon, but froze when he found himself staring down the barrel of my pistol. "Jake Reeves," he sneered, his silver eyes darting between us. "The human pet. Should have known Krell would send his wife's new plaything to do his dirty work." I kept my aim steady. "Why, Malar? You were Krell's right hand." "And I would have remained so if he hadn't lost his edge," Malar spat, "bringing a human into our ranks. Considering him for leadership, the Nova Riders are becoming weak under Krell." "So you sold us to the hegemony?" Lidara's voice was ice. "Betrayed your brothers and sisters?" "I made a choice to survive," Malar replied. "The hegemony is winning this war. Krell is dying. The Riders need new direction." "And you thought you'd provide it?" I asked. Malar's laugh was bitter. "The hegemony promised me command of a provincial sector once the Riders were eliminated. Better than dying for a lost cause." We secured Malar and recovered the data he'd intended to deliver. Comprehensive intelligence on Nova Rider operations that would have devastated their resistance movement. The return journey was tense but uneventful, with our prisoners secured in the Phantom's small brig compartment. When we docked at the asteroid base, we were met by a solemn-faced Grawl. "Krell?" Lidara asked immediately. "Gone," Grawl replied simply. "The toxin reached his heart an hour ago." The news hit like a physical blow, despite its inevitability. Krell had been a force of nature, a leader who commanded respect through strength and wisdom. His absence left a vacuum that threatened to tear the Riders apart. Word of our successful mission spread quickly through the base. As we escorted Malar to detention, Riders lined the corridors, watching in silence. I could feel their eyes on me, measuring, judging, wondering. In the command center, the senior officers had gathered. Their conversations fell silent as Lidara and I entered. "The human captured Malar," Grawl announced, "prevented the betrayal of our entire network." An older Azurian stepped forward, Toral, commander of the Southern Reach Fleet. "Impressive," he acknowledged grudgingly. "But with Krell gone, we must address succession. By tradition, leadership passes to his second dash." "By tradition," Lidara interrupted, "leadership passes to whoever is strong enough to hold it." She moved to my side. "Krell named his successor before he died, Jake Reeves." The room erupted in protests and questions. I stood silent, letting them vent their shock and disbelief. When the noise began to subside, I stepped forward. "I didn't ask for this," I said simply. "I was a bartender who helped a stranger. But circumstances have brought me here, and I won't shy away from responsibility." "You're human," Toral objected. "An outsider." "Yes," I agreed. "Which means I bring new perspectives, new strategies. The hegemony knows how to fight Riders. They don't know how to fight me." I gestured to the tactical display showing Malar's intercepted data. Today proved that. We stopped a traitor using unconventional tactics. That's what the Riders need now. Someone who thinks differently. Grawl moved to stand beside me. "I fought with Krell for 20 cycles. He was the finest commander I've known, his small eyes fixed on mine. Until today, I saw how you planned the interception, How you navigated the Carillion Belt. Krell chose wisely. One by one, other officers voiced their support. Not all, some remained skeptical, but enough to prevent immediate challenge. Later in Krell's, now our private quarters, Ladara and I finally had a moment alone. The weight of the day's event settled over us as we held each other in silence. "Are you ready for this?" she asked finally. "Leading the riders won't be easy." I traced the curve of her cheek, marveling at how natural it felt now to touch her blue skin. "No, but I'll learn," I smiled. "Besides, I have you to keep me from making too many mistakes." "Only the catastrophic ones," she teased, her lips finding mine. That night, our lovemaking was different, tender rather than urgent, affirming life in the face of loss. As Ladara slept beside me, her body glowing faintly in the darkness, I gazed out at the stars visible through the viewport. 3 months ago, I'd been Jake Reeves, owner of the Starlight Wayfarer, pouring drinks and listening to travelers' tales. Now I was Commander Reeves of the Nova Riders, with a price on my head and the responsibility for hundreds of lives, all because I decided to help a blue-skinned stranger in trouble. As if sensing my thoughts, Ladara stirred beside me. "Regrets?" she murmured sleepily. I pulled her closer, breathing in her cinnamon ozone scent. "Not a single one,"